This is the tutorial for Chapter 7 in your Beginning AutoCAD workbook. Okay, so lesson number 7, our learning objectives are to use some more modify commands. So we want to learn how to copy objects, create a mirrored image of something, add rounded corners or fillets, and add chamfered corners. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is copy. So up on your modify panel, it's copy. So remember to always be reading your command line. So it says select objects. So I want to copy that rectangle. And we're just going to use the simple specify base point mode. So I'm going to pick the bottom right corner. I'm going to turn on my objects now. So that's my base point. That's where I want to copy it from. And then it says specify second point, or we could do something called an array. All that we're going to do is we're just going to specify a second point. So it was there. I'd like to copy it here. And I just keep clicking, making copies until I'm done of the command. So enter or escape. So that was our copy command. The next one that they do is called mirror. So the mirror command allows you to make a mirrored image of any object you want. You can use this command for creating right or left hand parts, or to draw half a symmetrical object and mirror it to save your drawing time. So we're going to select mirror, and reading command line says select objects. So I'm going to pick that shape and hit enter. Okay, so now it says specify first point of mirror line. So what they basically want is they want you to establish a plane. You're going to have 2 points on a line to flip that image across. So I'm going to make my first point here. Then I'm going to click, and it'll show you as you're going along. I'm going to turn off my F8 just so you can see what happens. So I haven't clicked my second point yet. I only clicked my first point. So clicked over here. The mirror image of the existing would look like the one on the bottom. As I go along, it's moving following that plane. I'm going to turn my F8 back on to make sure I have a completely straight plane. Then I'm going to click to drop the object. So then it says erase source object, yes or no. So I want to know, do you want to keep this object on the left? And I'm going to say yes and enter. Okay. So that was mirroring vertically. You can do the same thing horizontally. So select object, hit enter, and then give it 2 points that you want to mirror it across. If I select no, it'll leave the original there as well. Okay, the next one that they do is fillet. So a fillet command will create a radius between 2 objects. So let's look at this. So if I had a corner made and I wanted to put a fillet on it. So I'm going to come up here to my modify and select fillet. So then it says select your first object. So we're not going to bother with all these extra things right now. So select first object, select second object. And all it's going to do is that just creates whatever the last value was you had entered as the radius. That's the size that's going to be put on there. If I wanted to change the size of that radius on the fillet, so I'm going to pick fillet. I'm going to cut down to my command bar and click radius. I'm going to enter. So before it was 0.675, I'm going to enter 0.25. Now I'm going to pick my first object and my second object. And your parts don't have to touch. So in this case, I select fillet, first line, and my second line. and it'll create a fillet for me. So again, if I have these two lines, I can go fillet. If I want to put a fillet on the end of it, for instance, I'm going to pick this line and I'm going to pick this line, and it'll close it for me. It'll add the fillet on the end of it. The last command is chamfer. So chamfer is going to put an angle. So when you look at your book, there's two things that we want to know for our chamfers. There's two ways to do them. We want to know the distance we want our angle to go up and the distance we want our angle to go over. Or we want to know the length of the angle that we want and the actual degree of the angle. So depending on what you know, what variables you know, you might pick different ways to create your chamfer. Okay, so we're going to use the distance method first. So instead of fillet, the little drop down beside it, it's going to give us the option to select chamfer. Okay, so I want to put a chamfer on the bottom left corner of this. Okay, so we said we wanted to do distance. So let's select distance. Okay, so our first chamfer distance. We want to type the distance for our first side. So this is going to be our first side. This is the distance that I'm entering. So I'm going to go with 0.25. Okay, then it says specify your second chamfer distance. So this way, across my x coordinate. If I put 0.25 in there again, I'd get a nice 45-degree angle. I'm going to change it just so that we can see the difference. I'm going to put 0.375. So now it says select your first line and select your second line. Let's do one more of those. So we're going to do chamfer, we're going to do distance. This time I'm going to do 0.25 and 0.25 for both distances. But before I select my line, I'm going to click multiple down on my command line. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick my lines. Since I picked multiple, I can keep going around and selecting lines. Okay, so that was chamfer using distance. This time we're going to do chamfer using, let's use the angle, so the angle method. So we select our chamfer command. And this time we're going to come down here to our command line and we're going to select angle. Okay, so it says specify chamfer length on the first side. So we're going to use this as our first side again. So I'm going to put in 0.5. Then it says to specify a chamfer angle. So I'm going to try 15 degrees. I don't know what I want it to be right now. I'm just putting in two values so that you can see what it does. So now I have to select my first line and my second line. So it went up 1 unit and over 15 degrees. So let's do one more of those. So angle, this time I'm going to enter 1 for the length, and I'm going to enter 30 for my degrees, and I'm going to hit M for multiple. Let's try this one out. So as you can see, depending on what information you know, you'll decide which is the best method for you to create your fillets with. Okay, so that covers the new commands from chapter number 7.